People who sleep naked, what is your plan in case of a fire or murderer? I'm going out the way I came into this world. Naked, screaming, and covered in someone else's blood. I keep a pair of shorts and a t-shirt next to my bed, my phone hung on the wall between my window and bed, and my wallet on a table near my door. I think about how embarrassing it would be if I was murdered naked. Cops taking pics. Dick out and all. Whole family coming in and seeing this. Dick out and all. Then again, who cares, I'm dead. I sleep naked in the park. I am the fire or murderer. Okay, so story time. I sleep naked. Have done for years, even in the middle of winter. Last September my wife and I were in the process of selling our flat and were dealing with all the bullshit that goes with it. Surveyors and real estate agents coming and going. Viewings at short notice. After the third time of having to leave work to let someone in, I had the great idea of leaving the door unlocked so that I could just tell people to let themselves in. I should say at this point that we were living in a nice area and I'd already moved everything apart from our bed out of the flat. Break-ins are pretty much unheard of, and even if someone did break in, we had nothing to steal. Fast forward a few days. We come back from a night out and between the alcohol and the stress of getting this flat sold, we're asleep before we hit the mattress. I wake up at about 2 a.m. to my wife shouting who's there, in my semi-conscious, adrenaline-fueled state. I throw myself out of bed and into the hallway that leads to my front door and come face to face with two guys. My first instinct was to grab the closest one by the shirt and go to throw a right hook. Sorry. Wait, what? Burglars don't say sorry. Adrenaline is still pumping, so I shove the first guy backwards. The second one retreats as well. Number one, where are the stairs? I'm yelling all sorts of stuff at these guys, mostly variations on get the f out of my flat and shoving them backwards. The second guy was carrying a scrap of paper and a carry-on suitcase, and was looking as bewildered as his mate. After maybe 30 seconds of being shouted at and pushed, I get them out the door and lock it behind them. The adrenaline begins to fade away and I turn to find my wife in fits of giggles. This is about when I remember that I'm totally naked. I've just faced two strangers down with my balls out. The terrified faces might have been due to the threats, but my wife insists it had more to do with them desperately trying to maintain eye contact with me. After a minute or two I've calmed down, but I can still hear the guys outside. If they were burglars, surely they'd have run off by now. I grab a pair of shorts, learning from my mistakes here, and head outside and catch up with them. It turns out the guy that I'd almost punched was a Romanian called Stefan. The guy that was with him was a friend of his that owned a local restaurant. Stefan had come to work for him. His friend had organized a place for Stefan to stay. He'd been given a key and been told walk in, go up the stairs and use the key to open your room. Stefan had arrived in the country 2 hours previously with his bag and a scrap of paper with his accommodation on it. The problem was, he was meant to be in building 1, flat 3, but he'd walked into building 13 and been greeted by an angry, naked local. I walked them to the right flat, told them to knock before walking into random buildings and wished them good luck. So apparently my anti-murderer plan is to assault them, swing my bollocks at them, push them out of the house, find a pair of shorts and then help them find their room. I assume it'll be the same in the event of a fire. I have a bat next to the bed. Intruder, use bat. Fire, use bat. I'm gonna go out like I came in, screamin' and kickin'. David Lister. Sleeping naked literally is my plan in both those cases. If the house is on fire, I assume it would be warm, probably excessively so. By already being naked, I have few seconds advantage on the heat becoming unbearable. If a murderer enters the house while I'm asleep, I figure the best course of defense is to scare them off. I'm not by nature a frightening man, but I figure to a nighttime intruder an angry naked guy running at you, balls swinging freely, would be somewhat intimidating. Thanks to everyone advising me that clothing actually protects you against fire. I was aware of this and was only being facetious in claiming these were my reasons for sleeping naked. Pee on them to assert dominance. Pissing on a fire is not something I'd recommend. It seems like a fine idea at first, but that steam is damn smelly. Look at my balls. Look at them. This applies to both the murderer and the firemen. In case of fire, I just put on clothes. In case of murderer, well, I can give a sexy distraction so I can cow him. If you're me and your dad sets the alarm off from his phone while you're home alone, you would get picked up by your dad, who is laughing so hard he can't speak. Whip out my cocktail sausage to make the fire, and/or burglar leave me alone because of guilt. Intensely stare at whatever the threat is and assert dominance. It's just you and me now. Fire. Crackle. Piss out the fire or beat the intruder with my dick. I would use piss for both scenarios. I sleep naked. I woke up randomly one night, confused and disoriented. The house was full of a thick smoke from my knees up, and the stench was nearly unbearable. What happened was I had been burning sticks of incense, and I would just stick them upright in an old candle. I probably amassed a good 100+ sticks up to that night. I went to bed with one lit. Well, the whole mass of tiny sticks went up like a smoke grenade. When I jumped out of bed, I ran to my back door and grabbed the fire extinguisher, then ran around from room to room like 4 to 5 times looking for fire. Then I grabbed my cats, who were just chilling in the living room like this is fine, and tossed their asses outside. My next idea was to grab my PC, so I ran into my office and started disconnecting things. That's when I saw the smoke billowing from the old candle incense graveyard. I then opened all the windows and doors, calming down. Then I realized that my cats were probably running away. I tossed a housecoat on with no belt and ran outside with a flashlight. I probably looked like a nutcase outside with my junk hanging out, waving a flashlight, loudly going PST 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 at 2 a.m., with a Snoop Dogg amount of smoke coming out of every hole in my house. I spent the next several hours waving a large Rubbermaid container lid around in every room to dissipate the smoke before the wife got home from work. The answer is that I have no plan. Same thing, just nude. I don't always sleep naked, but I had a fire incident once when I did. One Saturday morning when I was in college, I slept through a fire alarm. I woke up when campus security entered my room and started yelling at me. "Hey, why are you still here? Didn't you hear the alarm?" I was still in my bed at that point, and I just looked at him with my eyes half open and said, "I didn't hear it. I was sleeping." He then tells me that the fire alarm was set off in my room and starts rattling off questions. "Were you smoking, microwaving popcorn, toasting, lighting incense?" I told him, "No dude, I just told you I was sleeping. You literally just woke me up." At this point I could tell he was getting a bit frustrated, but so was I. He then tells me, "Get up. You need to go outside with the others." I responded, "Well, can I at least get dressed?" He scoffs, and after that he finally leaves. So I get up and I put on some pajama pants and my robe and went outside. It turned out my smoke alarm was defective, which is why it set off the system and why I couldn't hear it as loudly as everyone else. I guess it could have been bad if there was an actual fire, but I was more annoyed than anything that day. Bold of you to assume I A, will wake up, and B, have a plan. Use a fire extinguisher. Naked. Fight the intruder. Naked. Helicopter dick either puts out the fire or achieves emergency escape propulsion. For fire, I scare the fire spirits away with hideous amount of pubes. For murderers, I scare them off with my hideous amount of pubes. Criminals of Reddit, what is your plan when you break into my house and see a naked man running straight towards you? I think this is the real question. Helicopter my dong and fly to safety. Obviously, what else are they used for other than flight? I feel sorry for those below average and girls with short hair, and that is why short dong guys should have long hair. This happened to me years ago when I was still a student living in digs close to varsity. Early one morning, my now wife was woken by movement in the bedroom. There was an intruder who had climbed in through our sash window and was rifling through her handbag. She let out an almighty scream, and she was an opera student, so she really could scream. I woke up to see intruder's backside exiting through the window, so I jumped out of bed and gave chase. I was damn close to catching him, but he ducked down into the railway line reserve at the end of the street. It was here that my feet really started to get hurt on shards of broken glass, so I had to stop my chase. Then I realized that I was completely naked. The 200 meters walk down the street was interesting. Everyone had come out to see what the fuss was about and saw this breathless, naked young student sauntering down the road. I decided to just brazen it out and not put my embarrassment on display, so I just strolled along till I got home. I earned legend points that morning. It also helped that I was in really good physical condition. But in the heat of that fight or flight, adrenaline-charged moment, the last thing I thought about was my clothes. In case of fire or murder, the embarrassment of someone seeing my 45-year-old mashed potatoes belly floppy mommy tits and no sex in 5 years retro porn bush will take a backseat to death. I'd probably put some clothes on before I planned a murder or started a fire. For fire I have no plan. For robbery or murderers, is there really anything scarier than a naked white man running at you with a Glock 27 in one hand and a large knife in the other? I mean, at that point the intruder has gotta be thinking, does he know how to use the gun? What about the knife? Does he know how to do that? Why are his testicles hanging so low? Why does he have an erection? Die of burn or stab or shame. Frighten the fire or murderer into submission by helicopter dicking all night long. I have robes hanging on the back of the door. An attacker, gonna grab my baton flashlight with pointed ribs that looks like a scary dildo and swing it at them. Decided being naked ain't gonna be a worry if someone is trying to rape or kill me. I'll be more nimble anyway. Maybe weird to have someone in an armbar with straight pussy on M, but to be honest I'll probs try break the arm quicker if I'm having to do that. Shock and awe baby. I don't understand the question. Why would it be any different if you had clothes on? I'm not gonna let myself be murdered or stay in a burning building because I'm too embarrassed that I'm naked. Wait, I can't go out naked. Welp, I guess I'll die by the fire. Not fire or murderer but kinda close. I sleep naked, so a few days ago I woke up hearing someone in my yard picking through my shit. I have very expensive diving gear there and a few more stuff. I went outside naked with a morning erection, starting to yell at the guy and push him out of my yard. He tried to take my spear gun. He was drunk and harmless to be honest, but still very stressful. I didn't really care, I was naked. I went outside naked with a morning erection. He tried to take my spear gun. ... Is this some kind of euphemism? If there's a murderer in your house, your state of undress is not high on your list of priorities. Life's short. Drive fast and leave a sexy corpse. Stanley Hudson.